Let's talk about Miss Marvel. This is the portion of the spoiler review, or sorry, the spoiler review. I'm getting ahead of myself. The part of the podcast where it's all spoiler reviews. I have 4 projects that I'm going to be talking about today. The timestamps will be in the description below, so if you haven't seen any of them, they will all be spoiler reviews, just like last week. I realized that this week and next week, I had to stay up till I didn't have to. I did. I stayed up till 2 a.m. watching Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan. Next week will be the last week of that. The Disney Plus, what is it? Disney Plus sort of dropping 2 of their shows, big shows at the same time. I'm not a huge fan of it, honestly. I mean, not just the fact that I have to lose sleep over it. That's whatever. Like, it is what it is. I just think that why not have something to look forward to on multiple days of the week? Like it's great to have both of them on Wednesday, but I actually really like the Friday release. I know there's money reasons and business reasons to have them on Wednesday. I really don't love the Wednesday releases, to be honest. I actually really liked when they released on Friday. I think even Saturday would be fun. I know that that's not going to fly at all for business reasons. But having, I know She-Hulk and Andor are going to be running at the same time, probably, and Bad Batch is probably going to run. I think at some point you're just going to have everything dumping on Wednesday. And I don't understand why we can't just have one on Wednesday and one on Friday. I digress. This is a huge tangent and inside. But we're going to be talking about Miss Marvel episode 2. If you haven't seen it, please come back and watch the video or listen to the podcast later. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I want to say, and this is, this might be kind of an interesting slide. For those of you who haven't seen the show, Kim's Convenience, it's on Netflix. It just got canceled, which makes me so sad. And as you can see in the left hand side, there's Simu Liu, who plays a character named Jung in the show, and this is really where he got discovered, I believe. This is one of his first big acting roles, and this show is really funny. It's really, really funny. It's a sitcom about a Canadian-Korean family who owns a convenience store living in Canada, just kind of living their lives and all the interpersonal drama of the family, their friends, loved ones, relationships, friendships, all that sort of stuff. And the reason that I bring it up, aside from just, pointing out that, hey, it's Simu Liu, and this is where he first started, acting, or whatever. This is not where he first started acting, but I guess this was his big break. I don't know. I don't know why we're talking about Simu Liu so much. But this show, Miss Marvel, actually reminds me a lot of Kim's Convenience, because it's really centered around the family. And it's really centered around all the interpersonal sort of relationships. And it has a very actually similar sense of humor, because you're talking about, families who are not originally from America, who immigrated to America and have very unique stories about them, right? So they have a different cultural aspect of them, and they're these different families from different cultures and ethnicities coming from different countries and sort of living in America with their unique identities. And I think that that's really cool. That's something that I think that Miss Marvel is doing really well. And I also just to bring up another one of my favorite show of all time, Friends. Miss Marvel actually really feels like a sitcom, and I don't know if you guys know this. I love sitcoms to death. I just love sitcoms so much. And to see an MCU show kind of tackle a sitcom like this, it's not a sitcom in the sense that it's all in one little location and stuff, but it has the same kind of vibe, and just that it's about a few characters, it's about their relationships with one another, kind of coming of age, growing up, going through life together, just with superpowers. I think that that's awesome. I feel like Miss Marvel could have been a show that went on for 20 episodes, to be honest. I know the MCU doesn't do this, and it makes me sad, but I feel like they should at some point just make a true sitcom with superpowers. WandaVision was 9 episodes, and that was fun. She-Hulk's going to be 9 episodes. I don't have super high hopes for that one, but I didn't have super high hopes for this show either, so we'll see. But yeah, me personally, just right off the bat, this episode solidified it even more with the opening, and with the whole, even the dynamic between Bruno and Kamran, I believe is his name, and Kamala. I think it's just great. I think it's really harkening back to just this, the trope of sitcoms, and I think that it's working really well. Speaking of working really well, I think that, for her first acting credit, Iman Valani is just crushing it. I have never been endeared I think, to a character in the MCU or even many other shows or movies, more than I have been to Kamala Khan. I now desperately want Kamala Khan to interact with Peter Parker. I think they would just be so funny together. Just these kind of dorky high school kids. I know Peter Parker is unknown now, but they will interact at some point. And Young Avengers maybe. I mean, just to have an entire team of Kamala Khan, Kate Bishop, Peter Parker, Yelena Belova, Stature, I'm sure in Ant-Man 3 will be awesome. I think it's just so funny. Like, and again, just going back to the sitcom kind of thing, like it's just so endearing to kind of see these group. Nakia, I believe is her name, Bruno, Kamala, just going through high school, just going through life. And I find those parts of the show really interesting. I also kind of love, I didn't have it pictured here. Do I have a picture of Damage Control? I don't think I got a picture of Damage Control. I'll just talk about it here quickly. Actually, I'll talk about it here because this is the scene in episode 2 where Zoe, the girl who was at Avenger Con, who saw Kamala, and later gets apprehended by Damage Control. They're kind of listening to her talk. I think that Damage Control is interesting. Anyone else kind of catch the oddly really kind of racist remarks that racial profiling rather that I watched this at like 1:30 in the morning, so I was a little startled when I kind of like jolted up a little bit when that the woman who is assisting the agent from No Way Home says something that was mildly alarming to me. I don't know why that's a part of her character. I haven't seen the episode again. I need to watch it again to see if like that was intentionally a character choice or if I just kind of misheard something. But that was interesting, I guess. But yeah, Damage Control. I'll talk about it here really briefly. I think they'll be an interesting part of the show. I think the Stark drones kind of coming back, if those were the Stark drones, is also another neat little tie-in to the MCU. And so I'm enjoying the little nods, hints here and there of the MCU. I think this is how you make a sitcom in the MCU. It's just little hints and nods here and there, and obviously the Captain Marvel stuff. But I'm just super happy with the tone that they've struck. It's so unabashedly itself. I think that what really sunk the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that it felt so unabashedly MCU formulaic, generic in most situations, in most sections of the show. And I have to say, most of the other shows at the very least have been unique, just crazy. And the more we go on, the more we say there's not been a show like this. I think WandaVision, there's not been a show like this. Loki, I think it was just a really cool sci-fi kind of thing, time traveling kind of thing. Hawkeye, I think, is a little more just like a Christmas adventure, but you get to Moon Knight, which is, I thought it started out really interestingly and then kind of sputtered out at the end a little bit. But this show just takes it up to 11, just all the graphics going on in the background and the text bubbles. And I love it. I can understand why people wouldn't. Some people wouldn't. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But I personally I love it. I also love that, the relationship between the characters, right? Like you get to see a little bit more between Kamala and Nakia here in this episode, and I think that's great. Is it? I was going to say something, but I totally just blanked on that. But anyways, the relationship between these two is great, and that she's running for the board or something like that, the election. I think it's a really fun subplot. It makes it feel less superhero-y and more human. Obviously, the continued relationship between Kamala and Bruno. Just on a quick aside, I don't love the CGI here, or in the rest of the show. In both of the Disney Plus episodes that I watched last night, the CGI in certain places is just kind of, I'm just gonna say bad. It's not good. And so I hope that the powers, become something a little better. Or a little different, at least, because you could really tell they were animating over her hand, I think, in certain areas, especially during the training montages. But anyways, it's not amazing. But I love Bruno again. His decision to go to Caltech or not, that could be interesting. Young Avengers, West Coast Avengers, we'll see. I don't know. Just going to California makes you a West Coast Avenger. I don't know. And I think that the really interesting, the love triangle between her and Kamran and Bruno is going to be really interesting. I think this, I think it's a fun love triangle. I think that the relationship between Bruno and Kamala, I think if, they become a couple, it's going to be really fun. He's kind of like the Ned Leeds, I guess, to Peter Parker. Obviously, Ned and Peter aren't romantically really. It's kind of similar, actually. They have their own trio. Ned and MJ are together, which I think Bruno and Kamala will be together by the end of the series. And then there's the not the comic relief, I guess, but the funny third character, Ned, and then Nakia. And I think it's fun. I enjoy these trio dynamics. They're fun. Here are her powers again. This scene it's interesting. I think Nightlight, it's fine. This is probably one of the weaker parts of the show, saving the kid. Kind of experimenting with her powers. I think it's fine. It's cute. But what really is interesting about the show, I mean, I was on board with just the, like this stuff, right? The sitcom stuff. This kind of reminds me of a Community, by the way, just the sort of aesthetic. But anyways, if you haven't seen Community, the first 4 seasons are really fun. But this stuff, right? With Kamran and this lady here, who I saw this at 1:30. I watched a couple videos of people talking about it. I think New Rockstar said this is the same woman in the car who Kamran calls his mother. Interesting. I think that this other dimension, the MCU kind of needs to eventually explain what's going on here with all of these other dimensions and all of these gods and all of these, ancestral planes and mirror dimensions and now this thing and the duat. And I think there needs to be some explanation of kind of, the Celestials and the Watchers and stuff. They need to kind of explain it somewhere. But for now, it's cool. We'll just enjoy the ride. The mystery behind, her lineage, I think it's really cool. This idea that, Kamala has this sort of lineage and her powers sort of come from where she, like her family. I kind of think, it works both ways, right? I think I would have bought it also if it was just kind of an oopsies. I got these powers from a cosmic radiation, kind of like Carol Danvers did. And then you kind of have Monica Rambeau going through the field on her own. And Kamala, it's a family thing. So I kind of think that in the Marvels, you're going to have a really interesting dynamic between how they all got their powers. I will say, I think Brie Larson is good, fine in Captain Marvel, the movie. I think she's good in the movie. She was really bad in Endgame, but Endgame was filmed before Captain Marvel, so I'm going to, give it a pass. And I don't love Monica Rambeau. I don't think she's terrible either. I don't love the character that much. So I think that now, just if I didn't love Miss Marvel, I think I would have really been dreading the Marvels. But, with Kamala Khan, I think that the interplay between those characters is going to be really fun. But anyways, going back to this picture here with the ancestor. What an interesting picture, I'm really curious to kind of see, like, are the bracelets from sort of the same technology as the 10 Rings? That's been a theory that's come out. I'm just really curious what happened. I also love that they're bringing in real world history with a partition. I don't know enough about, the history of this region to really be able to talk about it. But what the show made me do is want to read up on it and really think about it more. Just the brutalities of what the world and civilizations can do. Colonizations, with England and Britain and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I'm just really excited, and again, with this character of Kamran, what they did so well. And for those of you who don't know, Spider-Man Far From Home is one of my favorite movies in the MCU, and I promise this will be relevant to Miss Marvel, and then we'll move on to Obi-Wan. One of the things that they did so well in Far From Home, for those of you who don't know, I'm currently a university student, so when Far From Home came out, I was in high school. And I love Far From Home because it captured what being in high school really was, the triumphs of asking, your crush out and the failures and the disappointments and the nerves and wanting to be with your friends and have a fun time on a school trip and worrying about stupid things and making stupid decisions that are really dumb in hindsight, like Peter giving up Edith classes to Mysterio kind of things. Obviously not that catastrophic, but what I can appreciate so much about Miss Marvel is that this show is capturing that same spirit of high school, And I love how Kamala is just dancing around, just so excited that this guy likes her. This guy who she really thinks is like way above her league, kind of based on the performance and based on the character, but he likes her. And Bruno's upset, obviously, which is funny. And I mean, like, to think about how happy you would be, and then to just realize at the end of this episode that it was all a plant, it was all a setup, or was it? Maybe Kamran actually does have feelings for Kamala, but yeah, I kind of thought at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is a bit convenient, like, oh, she gets the guy of her dreams or whatever, and he seems to like everything she likes. I didn't think it was going to be that he was a setup for anything. I really didn't, actually. I think that was actually a really clever subversion of expectations there. And so I'm really excited for episode 3. I'm really excited for this series. I'm still nervous because, Marvel only released the first 2 episodes to critics, and they released the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight. Moon Knight's first 2 episodes were amazing. Loki's first 2 episodes were amazing. WandaVision's first 2 episodes were really fun. And so I don't want to get my hopes up again because I really thought Loki was a disappointing series overall. I thought Moon Knight ended a little bit weakly. And I'm just hoping that this show can deliver on the promises it's made. But at this point, I'm in a very much a wait and see kind of mode. But yeah, I love the first 2 episodes so far. It's right up there with WandaVision. For now. I mean, obviously, WandaVision had some really emotional moments. I love WandaVision, but we'll see. We will see.